Alan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new year and another Cooking Without Looking TV show. This one is the Innovative Impact Edition. I'm Allen Preston.
Hi, Allen Preston, and hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Today, we have a special show. We're welcoming back two of our old friends from past shows. We have with us today Kirk Adams, and also we have Sylvia Stinson Perez with us. Welcome, guys.
Thanks.
Kirk Adams was the president and CEO of the American Foundation for the Blind and is now managing director of his own company, Innovative Impacts. Kirk will be preparing a frittata for us today.
Oh, that sounds great. And also Sylvia Stinson Perez, she is going to be giving some of our cooking tips for us on the Cooking Without Looking TV show today. Welcome, Sylvia.
Thanks, Annette and Alan. Super glad to be back with you guys. I took a little hiatus, but glad to be back.
Good to have you with us. Just a reminder that everyone who appears on our Cooking Without Looking TV show, as well as our podcast, are blind or severely visually impaired.
So let's kick off today's show of Cooking Without Looking, Innovative Impact Edition.
Today, we have Kirk Adams, Managing Director for his own company, Innovative Impact. Welcome, Kirk.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to cook.
Great. Well, Kirk, tell us a little bit about your journey through blindness. What's going on?
Oh boy, it's been a long one. I'll try to give you the abridged version. So I became totally blind when I was 5 years old. Both my retinas detached when I was in kindergarten. I became blind basically overnight, and I'm of a certain age, so at that point in time, kids with disabilities were not encouraged or welcome to go to the local public school. The model was that you would go to a state school. So I was born in Washington State. My family moved to Oregon because the school for the blind there was top quality. So I went to the Oregon State School for the Blind for second and third grade, learned to read and write Braille, which I do every day. Type on a typewriter, travel comfortably with a cane. It was run by a bunch of hippies. They took us out in the woods. We hiked, we horse camped, we got into tide pools, we made igloos. So a lot of physical activity. So really learned to be comfortable with my body and moving around as a blind person and doing the things kids do, falling down, getting scrapes and bruises, etc. And then into public school. I grew up in small kind of rural towns in the Northwest. Was the only blind kid in school after third grade. And then went on to college, got a degree in economics. Like many young blind people, had a really hard time finding a job. Found one selling tax-free municipal bonds over the telephone, which I did for 10 years. And my wife Roz and I got married and had our kids and bought this house that I'm sitting in here in Seattle. And I entered the nonprofit sector through fundraising. I became a fundraiser. I was hired by the Lighthouse for the Blind here in Seattle to start their foundation. I later became the CEO there. And then I was on the board of the American Foundation for the Blind. And when the organization decided to search for the next CEO, I put my name forward. I was given that amazing opportunity to lead that incredible organization. And we moved from this quiet, beautiful neighborhood in Seattle to New York City. We lived in Brooklyn. The offices were right next to Madison Square Garden. So my most challenging O&M situation, I learned how to travel, take the F train, transfer to the A train into Penn Station and up to the office and back. After a strategic planning process, we closed the big New York offices. We established a small headquarters in Arlington, Virginia to be near the public policy activities in DC. Became largely a virtual organization. And the 6 years with AFB flew by. I was smart enough to hire Sylvia before I made my career change. And during all that time, I finished a doctorate. So I have a PhD in leadership and change from Antioch University that I finished in 2019. So it is Dr. Adams, and I must admit I like the sound of it. And we decided Seattle is where we need to be. We have our first grandbaby. He lives a mile away, so we're happy to be back home in the Northwest. I have an apron on that, it's a black apron that my wife customized. There's a strip of purple and gold cloth at the top with the University of Washington golden W and the image of the Husky. I've got a cutting board here shaped like the state of Washington. So we're back where we belong.
That is pretty spectacular, Kirk. Excuse me, Dr. Allen. I'm a little bit curious. I can't remember. Are you totally blind, or do you have a little bit of eyesight?
No, I'm totally blind. Someone put on Facebook the other day that totally blind is no longer an acceptable term. You have to say no light perception. But I'm gonna stick with totally blind until someone tells me I can't say that anymore.
Yeah. All right. I love it. That is quite an experience. Well, today you're preparing a frittata for us.
Well, let's go
Now,
with frittata.
I'm sorry, I mispronounced it. I thought I had it from yesterday. Frittata.
Yeah.
For our audience, a frittata is an egg-based Italian dish, similar to an omelet or a crustless quiche, or maybe scrambled eggs, but it's enriched with additional ingredients such as meat, cheeses, and vegetables. The word frittata is Italian and roughly translates to fried. So tell us a little bit about your frittata, Dr. Allen.
You just taught me something. I did not know it was Italian. I didn't know it meant fried, although it is baked.
Interesting. I'm reading the script that Renee wrote down.
It does mean fried, but I think I got the original frittata recipe out of a Braille version of Parenting magazine when my kids were little. And it's those things that I just cook out of my head. I think it's analogous to a green salad. You know, green salad, if you have a head of lettuce, you can do lots of different things with it. With a frittata, you can do a lot of different things with it. So I just cook it out of my head. It's somewhat different every time, depending what we have in the refrigerator or the pantry. And it is like you said, it's eggs enriched with other things. So today I'm going to make one with 8 eggs. I'm going to use an 8 by 8 inch baking pan. I've made a 6-egg frittata in a pie pan before. As we say in our house, if it's not something that requires a lot of precision, we say this is not a souffle. So you can be very creative with it, and it'll come out wonderfully every time.
Okay, are we ready to get going?
Should I make it?
Yes, that's kind of what we're looking for here.
Okay, so I have a
First of all, if I can ask you a quick question, you're working out of your own home in your own kitchen, am I right?
We've made thousands and thousands of meals in this kitchen. We bought the house in 1990. It was built in 1902, and we've gone several rounds of remodeling. So hardwood floors, and around me are some beautiful maple cabinets, hardwood cabinets that we had put in 8 or 9 years.
The whole point I'm trying to make is that you are very familiar with your kitchen, and being familiar with your kitchen is important.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Didn't mean to interrupt. Keep going.
No problem. I use cooking spray, great modern invention. So I'm going to spray my pan lightly. I always put my fingers in and make sure it's coated. You use a lot of fingers in your cooking, so I keep a little cloth in my apron pocket if I want to get my fingers cleaned off. And unless it's dessert, we start with onion. And so I have a whole onion here. I've got it laid on its side. I cut it in half. A sharp knife is important. I'm gonna cut 2 slices, maybe half an inch thick. Let me get another one.
Now, do you sharpen your own knives?
Yes, yeah, I sure do. And
Okay.
it's a very meditative, relaxing thing to do that I enjoy doing. So I'm going to remove the outer ring of the onion. I'm going to drop it in a bowl, which is for compost. One of the reasons we love Seattle, the city composts. So we have a compost bin outside our house, and it's for yard waste and food waste. And the city comes and picks it up every week, and they make compost out of it, and it pays for the program, which is awesome.
I love it. That's what you get for growing up with hippies, right?
Yeah, that's right. I have Birkenstocks. I am going to cut I have the round of onion, one of them in front of me. I'm going to just cut it down the middle. I'm going to turn that half circle so the round part is facing away from me. And I'm just going to, it's not minced. It's just kind of lightly, I guess, a medium chop, medium dice.
Yes. I'm glad you're doing that with your hands. I have one of those little choppers that you pound down on the top of it.
Yeah.
I save my fingers that way. I get a little arthritic, so it's easier.
So I guess I'm thinking this through. I just do it. So I have my thumb on I slice the onion round in half. So I've got a half circle. The straight edge is toward me. I have my thumb against that. I've got my forefinger on the rounded edge. And I just chop. I'll move my fingers over a quarter
You
inch.
keep part of one of your fingers on the side of the knife so you can tell where it is, right?
I got my forefinger on the top of the knife.
Okay.
Got it choked up a little bit, so I'm pretty close to the blade. And I just, with each chop, again, I do it automatically. I'm thinking it through. With each chop, I just slide my fingers over about a quarter inch, bring the knife blade to the tip of my thumb and forefinger.
When you do it all the time, it becomes very automatic, and then you have to sit and explain it to somebody. It gets tough.
So doing the other half circle, I'm going to just scrape the onion with my hand. Hands are the best cooking tools.
Yes, they are, as long as they're clean.
Yeah, got it in the pan, and then I'm going to take both hands, my thumb and my first 2 fingers, and just make sure the pieces of onion are separated and kind of distribute them around the pan. So evenly distributed, more or less. Again, it's not a souffle. Good enough. I'm going to use a bell pepper. You can literally, I always use onion, but you can use bell pepper, jalapenos, pickled or fresh, any cooked vegetables you have from a previous meal. I set the bell pepper on end with the stem side up, centered my knife, and just slice down. So I have 2 halves. Holding it over the compost bowl, finding the core, tipping it outward. Then I'm looking inside for the I don't know what you call it. It's not cartilage, it's a vegetable. Anyway, these ribs inside.
Little spines inside.
I'm pulling those off. I'm only going to use half, but I'm going to go ahead and clean the other half, and I'll put it in the vegetable drawer for another use. I've got my half a bell pepper. I'm going to cut it down the middle lengthwise. Then I have 2 halves. Going to turn the quarter bell pepper so the long edge is facing toward me and away from me. And then I'm going to just like the onion, just slice, moving my forefinger along a quarter inch at a time, bringing the knife to my finger, making sure my other fingers are not under the plate.
You've been doing this for a long time. You still
Yeah.
have all 10 of them?
Yeah, and then I'm gonna look, one piece is a little thicker than I want it. So I'm just gonna give it a little slice. Then I'm gonna take a cook's prerogative and eat one of these pieces.
Oh yeah, I like eating raw peppers too.
That's one of the benefits of being the cook, because you can take bites as you go.
A lot of times I like the raw vegetables better than the cooked vegetables.
So I'm doing the other half of the pepper. Like I said, I always do mushrooms, so we're a little mushroom heavy. I'm gonna put in 8. I didn't want you to watch me prep 8 mushrooms, so I did 6 in advance. And I have 2 that I'll do the way I do them. So cut off the very end of the stem, because sometimes it's tough. So that goes into the compost bin. I have the mushroom sitting stem side up, centering my knife in the middle of the stem, slicing down. So now I have 2 halves. I'm popping off the half of the stem. Looking at the back, there's some of the soft gills. There's a soft part in the core of the mushroom. I'm just taking holding it in my left hand, thumb and forefinger in my right. I'm just peeling that out. And I just toss the stem.
No, I never knew that. Is that a particular thing for that kind of mushroom, or is that common to all mushrooms?
I don't think it's common to all mushrooms, but these typical, the basic mushroom you see in the bins in the grocery store, they're grown commercially and they grow them really fast. So I think the skin is a little bit tough. So I peel my mushrooms. So
Okay.
I'm holding this half a mushroom vertically with the cut edge away from me, and I'm just feeling the edge of the mushroom cap, and I'm finding where there's loose, soft material, and I'm just pulling it and peeling the mushroom.
I had never thought about peeling my mushrooms.
Again, cooking is very contemplative and relaxing, and I enjoy the whole process. So I have half a mushroom peeled. I've got it facing me vertically, so that how can I say this? Got the cut edge down, so it's like a little dome. And then I'm gonna slice them. I'm gonna make 3 slices, so 2 cuts. You can also, as the mood strikes you, you can certainly cut it the other way and make more of a chunks. But I just find that if you choose one way, do them all that way. It tends to make a more pleasing dish. So I'm slicing the second half, 2 slices. The slices will often kind of come apart. No big deal. It's not a souffle. Cutting the end of the stem off the second one. Got it stem up, centering the knife, slicing down 2 halves, pulling off this half stem. There's a little bit of soft material on the back, taking that off, getting that soft material out of the core, peeling it. And slicing it. Again, this is very much something that you can adapt whatever you have on hand. Raw meat, the dish does not cook long enough to cook it. So if you use meat, it should be cooked. I cook it on 350. And I typically set I'm putting in the pre-cut mushrooms now. I have a little bin beside me with ingredients in it, which is also another good thing to do, which I don't always do, but to make sure you have all your ingredients before you start and you know where they are. And
a lot of times I like to pre-measure stuff if I know how much, like dry ingredients and other things that I can pre-measure.
Yeah, I don't always practice what I preach. So this 8x8 pan is getting pretty full, and it might look alarmingly full, but the eggs will sift down and filter through everything and fill the pan. So for 8x8 pan, 8 eggs, I've never had a problem.
Using this many mushrooms?
Using this many of anything.
Okay.
I have a couple of beef sausages here, like kielbasa's. That's what I'm going to use. Got it in front of me horizontally. I'm going to cut off the very ends and take a cook's prerogative and eat those.
Oh, that's the best part.
And then I'm just going to, just like I did everything else, I'm going to cut into rounds.
About how thick?
I'd say a 1/4 inch. So again, a slice, I have my thumb on the back side and my forefinger on the top. I'm moving my forefinger over a 1/4 inch, bringing the blade to my fingertip, slicing down.
I'd like to say I can see what you're doing, but I understand what you're doing. You don't have a guide dog, do you?
I don't. I learned how to use a cane when I was 6, and I'm a pretty good cane traveler.
No.
It's a lot easier these days with all the tools we have now, Hyra and Be My Eyes, and those types of technological developments that can give you a little bit of a hand once in a while.
Yes. If
I
only I
remember
had this technology when I was young. Okay, now you're still slicing up the sausage?
taking the next one, eating the ends.
I was going to ask if the ends on the next one too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like having a guide dog, but it's also for the companionship too. But
Sure.
Congratulations on that grandchild of yours.
Yeah.
And you've also got a wife who kind of helps out a little here and there too, right?
Oh yeah, we have had immense joy beyond what we imagined having a grandchild. So we love our children. We have 2 grown children who are doing wonderful things in the world. But there is something about that grandchild. So I put
something special. I understand.
I put the sausage in, and the next thing is going to be the egg. So I'm just using my fingers. I'm looking in the pan. There's some places where the sausage is kind of piled up. I'm just kind of brushing around, distributing it. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect.
Everything getting evened out.
Yeah.
And making sure that it doesn't go over the top edge of the pan, I bet too.
I'm going to set my knife over here. I'll need it later for the cheese, but now it's time for eggs. I'm going to take a drink of water out of a beautiful mug from Maui with a big wave on it. A tactile wave. So I'm going to quickly crack 8 eggs. Just tap it on the side of the bowl until I know it's fractured.
Are you putting your eggshells in your compost?
Yeah, and then I just pull the 2 halves apart. We can compost.
Separate the yolks from the whites.
Nope. It's all going to scramble. And yeah, we can compost eggshells and bones, and we have a very small garbage can because we compost and recycle. And
yeah, I never did anything with bones. The eggshells I would.
So 2 more. All right, I'm gonna put in a couple dashes of milk because a liquid helps your yolks and whites blend. You can use water. I use milk.
Yes.
So just put my finger in front of the spigot, and just so I can kind of gauge how much is going in.
Gives you a good idea, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, 2 tablespoons.
A dash and a half, huh?
Yeah, something like that. and then beat them, and want to do that very thoroughly.
You didn't add any salt or anything yet.
Nope. We're kind of low salt people.
Okay.
I have a little hypertension, but the sausages are salted. I'm going to use pepper jack, which has a little salt. So people can salt it individually if they want. I'm going to put hot sauce on it, salsa. Again, this is a very free-form dish. I'm gonna give it. I like to really beat the eggs so they're somewhat fluffy.
It gets a little bit of air into them. You're right.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna move my compost bowl and pull my 8x8 pan closer. And you just pour it slowly so it doesn't slosh. You just pour it in the middle and it will distribute itself. So you really don't need to do anything but pour it slowly into the center.
The nice thing about liquid, it does tend to level itself out in the pan.
And trust physics to do the rest. So during that egg stage, I've whipped sour cream into the eggs. If I had some sour cream around, so some leftover ricotta, you could crumble some feta in there. Do with it what you will. If you want a grate cheese, you can grate your cheese. I like the cheese in a kind of a fine dice because it makes some interesting little kind of cheesy pockets. So I have a 1/4 inch thick slice of pepper jack. It's a square. I'm going to use my knife, positioning it vertically away from me, and cut 1/4 inch sticks, basically. So again, positioning my thumb and my forefinger as my guides, bringing my knife blade to my thumb and forefinger, thumb on the side of the slice that's closest to me, forefinger on the side that's farthest away from me, using my finger as my cutting guide. And almost done. Kind of gathering the sticks up together in a bundle. Turning them
the sticks instead of putting them in cubes.
Yeah, so turning them 90 degrees so they're horizontal in front of me, and then again the old 1/4 inch cut using thumb and forefinger. And then I am going to pick it up and kind of sprinkle it and do my best to guess evenly. So I just sprinkle the handful over kind of the top third of the pan, gathering some more, scattering in the middle, gathering
Of course, now you got the egg in there, it's a little harder to deal with your fingers.
You're going to get some egg on your fingers. So now I'm again just using my fingers, make sure the cheese is distributed nicely, which it is. We are big fans of fresh ground pepper here.
Oh,
so
yes.
I have a pepper grinder. I'm going to put about 50 turns of pepper here. And just moving the pepper grinder around the pan.
Well, now you know your pepper grinders, so you know what 50 grinds or 50 twists will do.
Yeah, we might be a little above the average on pepper consumption.
I'll bet you add a little hot sauce to it from time to time too, eh?
Yeah, and so this cheese is on the top. The sausage is the next layer down, and then this pepper, and it kind of makes a cool peppery, cheesy, sausagey layer on the top.
Uh-huh.
So that's it. I put it in the oven at 350. Typically, I put it in for 25 minutes and then check it just to make sure it's firm. You can pull it out and just lightly touch the surface to make sure it's firm. Or if you're not comfortable with that, I would say 350 for 25 minutes, turn your oven off, leave the door of the oven closed, and get the rest of your breakfast ready. Give it about 15 minutes. Some people say a frittata should be served at room temperature. I like it warm. Again, if you make these a lot, you'll figure out how you like it. And that is it. I made one
That
last.
really sounds great, Kirk. Have you got one already prepared that you could show us?
I don't know.
I
Is that,
had a feeling you would.
so there's one I made last night. We're gonna deliver one of these to our son and wife and grandson, and we're gonna eat the other one.
Sounds
I love it. I'm still waiting for smell-o-vision, Renee. All right. That really sounds delicious, Kirk.
Yeah, it's easy. It's a nice thing to do on a Sunday morning. I like to get up before the rest of the family, put on some coffee, put on some music, putter around the kitchen, put a frittata together. And then when everybody comes downstairs, they have the great fragrance of the frittata, and food's on.
sounds delicious.
That really sounds great. That sounds spectacular. Doesn't that sound good, Sylvia?
It sounds amazing. And I'm going to be honest, it's a common thing in my house. And sometimes we have that for dinner, I'm just going to say.
It sounds absolutely wonderful. Have you got some kitchen tips you'd like to share with us?
I
Blind
do.
this kind of a recipe, or just in general?
Well, Kirk did a marvelous job of describing. Oh my gosh. I mean, fabulous job of describing. I love how you talked about using your hands. And a previous guest a while back on Cooking Without Looking, Regina Mitchell, who is a real chef who has worked in restaurants, and she talks about the importance of working with your hands, and she did that before she was blind. And so I think it's important for people to know, work with your hands, because that is it makes it so much easier for us, but it's the way cooks do it too. And so Kirk, great knife techniques that you what a marvelous job describing. I'm going to just take a little second to say about the way he was putting things in the pan, especially the cheese. He was using, like we've talked about a long time ago when I was here, the overlapping kind of a grid pattern. So you make sure you cover the whole surface. And honestly, something came up that this is not a cooking, a blindness skill, but you were talking about making sure your eggs were really done. And recently, I learned from a baker who works in a bakery that if you're short of oil, now they have a recipe where they make that doesn't include oil. And I was like, how does that work? And so I have now tried the same method when I've been short of oil or didn't have oil to add to a recipe. You can actually whip your eggs long enough, and they say they have to get to a bubble level. So it's about 5 minutes has been the timing, and you can actually feel it, because I can feel when they're at that bubble level, but it actually creates so much air in them that you reduce the need for oil. And so I thought that was really cool, and I've tried it and tested it, and it works. So that's my tips.
That's a good one. I'll use that.
Annette, are you there? What do you think?
I'm not sleeping. I'm really mesmerized by all this, and I really
Wasn't
think
that spectacular? Kirk did Dr. Allen did a great job of describing how he cuts and everything else.
Dr. Allen, he's going to be sick of hearing that for this show. But yeah, thank you, Sylvia, for those tips. You're always so articulate, and you have some very practical things to say. Thank you so much. And now, Kurt, we want to find out more about you, and we want to find more about your new business that you started. I'm very, very curious. You seem like a very logical, very practical, very detailed oriented man that would be terrific in any business. I'm just curious, what was it that made you start your business called the Innovative Impact?
I think it was just a logical progression from what I've done. My first 10 years out of college, like I mentioned before, I was in the securities business and banking. And when I turned 30, I really decided I I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. So I got the What Color Is Your Parachute book out of the Talking Book and Braille library. Followed all the instructions and all the exercises. And at the end, I had great clarity that I should really be in the nonprofit sector because that aligns so well with my values, and that I should work for nonprofits that had the mission of creating opportunities for people who are blind. Having the lived experience of blindness myself and encountering many of the typical struggles, I really dedicated the rest of my professional career to making the road easier for the blind people coming behind the next generations. So I really entered the sector through fundraising, was hired by the Lighthouse for the Blind here in Seattle to create the foundation and the fundraising program, and learned about the employment situation. I'd had my own challenges with employment. I really came to know how systemic those barriers are. And I also came as I became an employer of 250 blind and deafblind people doing really cool jobs like making aerospace parts for Boeing, precision computer numerically controlled machining, really cool jobs. I just got very clear on the importance of work, how it gives people dignity and purpose and engagement with the community and the ability to thrive, to start families if that's what they want to do, own homes. By any measure, our outcomes are half as good or twice as bad, however you want to look at it, as the general population. So I got very focused on employment, and that was my passion.
Wow, I could hear that. I could hear that in your voice. It's like
and then
necessity was the mother invention for you.
Yeah, at AFB, which is a really unique, awesome organization that uses research and public policy to change systems. I learned even more about how all these systems work. So there's government, federal and state systems that are funded and charged with creating employment opportunities. There are corporations who have said that they are committed to including more people with disabilities in their workforce.
Is that true, or are they just saying that?
That's a point. Many are just saying that, some are doing it, and at various levels. There are nonprofits whose mission is to get people employed, and then of course there's individual blind people and the federation and the council, and they rarely talk to one another. So my opportunity is to work with the employer, and my niche has become privately held corporations that are growing rapidly, say 50 to 100 million in sales, that have done some things around diversity, equity, and inclusion. It usually starts with race and gender, but are now ready to start thinking about including people with disabilities. And a lot of that has been driven by their need for talent and their need to find good employees. And there's some win-win situations here. So what I've been doing is just bringing all the right people around the table. The employer, they're typically not even aware there is a VR system. So bringing the relevant people from VR to the table, bringing the relevant people from the nonprofit community to the table, looking at transportation, just bringing all of the dynamics and factors together that are necessary for success, and not just successful employment, but to retain people, to give people opportunities for career pathways. Two examples: I'm working with a company called United Safety Technology. They got a $100 million grant from the Defense Production Act to stand up U.S. production of medical gloves. They're almost all imported. They've leased a 700,000 square foot facility, used to be a Bethlehem steel plant outside of Baltimore. They're standing up their production lines. They're going to have 2,000 employees And in conversation with the owner, it's privately held, who has a severe learning disability himself that he's hidden his whole life, he has stepped out and made a commitment that 30% of his workforce will be people with disabilities. So that's 600 jobs.
Wow.
So I took he and his team on a field trip down to Anderson, South Carolina, where Walgreens has a warehousing and distribution center, where they employ 40% of their employees are people with disabilities, and they're the most productive of the 20 Walgreens centers, by every measure: safety, absenteeism, satisfaction, retention.
Wow.
So they're fired up, and I've connected them with the right people in the voc rehab system and the nonprofit community. Found a person who specifically writes grants for state funding for manufacturing. Got them connected with people who can help them capture all the tax credits they're due. And then another example, I'm working with a cybersecurity firm called Nova Coast, also privately held. The president lives in Seattle. They have 400 employees. His plan is to scale to 1,000. They can't find enough people to hire. So we just created a 10-week virtual training program to train blind people to sit for the 2 entry-level cybersecurity certifications. And right before the year end, we received approval from the Washington State Department of Services for the Blind. So now they can refer their consumers to this program and pay the cost of the program.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, Nova Coast is very, very tied into this industry. I was able to talk to, in October, I went to their annual meeting and was able to talk to 70 different companies, all of whom have the same issue: can't find enough entry-level cyber people, and all are very eager to interview folks who graduate from the program. So those are goals. I have a couple other things I'm doing, but I won't belabor that.
I'm going to get into that. We're going to get into something else after you say.
Yeah, I do want to say Allen is a beautiful name, but my last name is Adams, so it's actually Dr. Adams.
Right.
And,
I apologize, Dr. Adams. I thought on my thing it said Allen, but my eyes are so bad I can make that.
No worries, but that leads me to my email address. And if anyone watching would like to talk to me, my email is really easy. It's my first and last name followed by 3 zeros at Gmail. So it's Kirk Adams 000, KIRKADAMS 000 at gmail.com. And I'd love to connect with anyone who is interested in creating career opportunities for people who are blind.
Yes, I'm going to have you repeat that at the end, but I'm just so impressed with what you're doing. It's amazing. I like that you picked the private sector. Well, you could probably tell us why you picked the private sector, but you said that the employers are very motivated. They can't find good entry-level people. How are the people with disabilities? Are they eager? Are they excited? For the most part, what percentage are like raring to go, excited about this whole situation?
That's a really good question. Sylvia might have a better answer than I. The stats are, what something 65% of people with disabilities aren't in the workforce. There's certainly a fair number who have given up trying. There are thousands of people who are eager to work. We do have some disincentives built into our structures, like the SSDI disincentive, things like that. My dream is that creating these career pathways will encourage people to enter the workforce when they see there are pathways that can lead to successful careers. So for instance, in the cyber program, the state of Washington has set aside money for the first 15 students. They're going to refer 15 of their consumers. And then we'll have some case studies and some success stories. And when I'm able to introduce more employers to situations like the Walgreens distribution center, where 40% of their employees are disabled and it's their highest performing center when, I talk to employers and they tell me the types of folks they're looking for. And I say, living with a disability every day gives you opportunities to develop all of those characteristics, like resilience and grit and creative problem solving and being able to work in a team and all those things. So as more employers understand, they can supercharge their bottom line by intentionally including people with disabilities in their workforce. I would say there's so much more momentum around this than there was 5-10 years ago. And I had an interesting conversation with someone who said it's reminiscent of the environmental movement when people started saying zero waste stream, carbon footprint, and green choice and LEED certified building, and no one knew what those things meant, and it was all new. And now it's just part of the vernacular, as part of our society.
How long have you been doing this, Dr. Adams?
How long have I been doing this? Since about 93.
This
When
new
I-
business, innovative
Oh
impact?
no, innovative impact, 6 months.
Oh, okay.
This is Sylvia, and I just want to say I love it. So I
Yeah.
love it.
And it's a social outlet as well for the people with disability. I think it gives them more confidence, and I think it alleviates a lot of depression, because I've heard from other guests that a lot of the people with disability want to just sit on the couch and they don't even want to get up and move and do different things. And this forces them to get out, makes them feel like a part of society. That's a wonderful thing. Do you have to deal with, how do you get like the equipment and the tools that they might need to accomplish this job? Do you have to deal with DBS as well, or do you do that on an independent basis?
No, the systems exist and they're funded and they have a purpose, and it's just connecting them. So yes, we want VR to do their part. For instance, for United Safety Technology, the state of Maryland will pay the salaries for the first 90 working days.
Mhm.
Someone who comes on board as an on-the-job training. They'll also provide the equipment that the person might need, the accommodations they might need.
Or how do they know which equipment to get, the employer? Because it's kind of new to him.
Right. That's where partnering with nonprofits comes in. The nonprofit, community-based nonprofits have that expertise and can provide analysis of the person's accommodations needs, job coaching if that's necessary, O&M. So this, again, it's bringing together the various stakeholders who have commitments in this space. Each one brings something else to the table, but bringing them all to the table is where things start to really happen.
Because you're the managing director, so you kind of have to manage all the aspects of this.
Well, this is Sylvia, and what I will say is different about this approach is usually it's a bottom-up approach, and you're using a top-down approach by going straight to the corporate leads. And so that's a whole different approach.
Mhm.
Awesome.
The reason private companies are beautiful because they have an owner or several owners, and they can make a decision.
Mhm.
I met with the president of Nova Coast, the cybersecurity company. I got in an Uber and went down to his office south of Seattle. We talked for an hour, and he's like, "Let's do it."
Yeah.
So
How exciting. It gave me the chills. It just gave me the chills.
yeah, so I had a contract, within 3 days. So that's not the pace I'm used to working in the beautiful nonprofit sector.
Right.
Tongue in cheek on that one, huh? Well, there's another aspect I wanted to ask you about. It's called Braille Doodle. Can you tell us what that is and how it works? I think I said it correctly, did I? Braille Doodle.
You heard about the Braille Doodle?
I never heard about the Braille Doodle. Tell us.
Well, there's a gentleman named Daniel Lubiner, and he taught art to blind kids at the New York Institute for Special Education in the Bronx for many years. And he has developed what's called the Braille Doodle, and it's kind of like it's a toy designed for blind kids to help them start using their hands and understanding tactile and the shapes of Braille characters. So it is a grid of 100 little holes, and beneath each hole is a steel ball bearing, about the size of a pea, I guess. And then you have a magnetic, looks like an ink pen, but there's a strong magnet in the end, and you hold it over the hole and the ball bearing pops up and it clicks into place. And it's addictive to play with. It makes cool clicking sounds. And then you can, when you're done making your shape or your letters or just creating little designs, and you just push the ball bearings down and they go back in. So
Oh,
it's addictive, but
it sounds like it.
it's going to be a lot of fun for a lot of blind kids and their families. Sighted kids see print before they can, as soon as they open their eyes. There's a cereal box on the table, there's a newspaper, there's signs when they're in the car with their parents or driving by, signs. There's writing on toys. So print. So blind kids need a braille rich environment, and they need to start learning how to use their hands to distinguish objects tactily and start understanding what the braille characters are. And this is just another fun way to give blind kids some of the experiences they need to become good, strong blind people, hopefully. But like we just cooked. I use my hands a lot.
Yes, you made that clear. You like to use your hands for cooking.
That's what I use. So to get these, little one or blind kiddos used to using their hands and knowing it's cool and fun.
I love that. I'm glad you're bringing the braille back.
It's
Lost
prototype.
art.
Yeah, prototypes are done. I'm just advising, setting up manufacturing in India, actually, with a nonprofit that employs people who are blind that happens to do plastic injection molding. They actually assemble Perkins braillers, and then going to find some some blindness nonprofit to do the distribution. So we'll have blind people involved throughout the whole supply chain.
Well, we're so glad you're involved, because I hear the passion in your voice. It's exciting because you're helping so many people. And I want to ask you, because you had said earlier how to reach you. Before we do that, please, just if there's anything else you want to add about Innovative Impact, please do. You have the stage, and then tell people again how they can reach you, Dr. Adams, please.
Yeah. LinkedIn I use daily, so that's a great way to connect and stay connected. Or again, my email address is kirkadams000@gmail.com, KIRKADAMS000@gmail.com. And just anyone who's interested in eliminating barriers, creating opportunities for people with disabilities in general. My lens, of course, is blindness because I'm a blind person, but the employers are interested in cross disability employment. So if you know of a company, if you are part of a nonprofit, if you're just a private citizen who has passion around creating inclusion and opportunity, I'm delighted to talk.
Yeah, I think a good company, just the top of my head, I've always wondered this, since people with disabilities, especially blind and visually challenged people, I hear they don't like to exercise, or the majority of them don't get out and exercise. Maybe approaching some of the big gyms down here. I know LA Fitness is all over the country. I haven't seen any people with disabilities work there. I mean, I've been a trainer in the past, but I can't see the holes to put the peg in for the weights.
Yeah,
so I don't know how that would work.
Well,
but other things.
That's when you use your fingers.
Right. I do. Yeah.
That's a great thought.
That's a big company. LA Fitness is huge.
I know one blind personal trainer here in Seattle that I've worked with before, so it certainly can be done, and there's a success story and there's a model, and that's what we're looking for.
Good. Well, I'll be contacting you in the near future. Okay. I appreciate the story so much. And well, by the way, so you told us how to reach you, Kirk kirkadams000@gmail.com. Thank you for that. And thank you for being on our show today and joining us.
It was fun.
Alan? Yeah, well, sure was. Alan, you're up.
Thank you very much, Annette and Sylvia and Kirk, Dr. Adams. And thank all of you in our audience today for joining us on the Cooking Without Looking TV show, Innovative Impact Edition. If you like today's recipe or any of our past recipes, please go to our website at www.cookingwithoutlooking.wordpress.com. Annette?
Yeah, sounds good. I was just writing down how to reach Dr. Adams, so okay. But you know what? If you want to re-see this show, because there's so much good information, or you want to see any of our shows over or in the past shows, please go to our Cooking Without Looking YouTube channel. It's terrific.
And if you happen to teach people who are blind or visually impaired, please feel free to use our show for your students. Many teachers around the country and nearly 60 other countries around the world now use our show to teach their students.
They do, huh? Well, that's a good,
Boss, that's what it says.
that's a good thing, because it's interesting and fun. I think they'll love it. But you know what else they're going to love? I love podcasts, because I just have to listen and I don't have to read any small print, because I have Stargutts, which is a form of macular degeneration. So when I want to listen to the Cooking Without Looking podcast, I go to my favorite place to find podcasts. You can go to Spotify, iHeartRadio, or you could go through, if you have an iPhone, you can go through Alexa and listen to our wonderful, wonderful many episodes of Cooking Without Looking podcasts.
You are absolutely right, Annette. And if you would like to donate to Vision World Foundation, we sure hope you will, to help us change the way we see blindness, please go to our website at www.cookingwithoutlooking.wordpress.com and click on the link at the top of the page. Or for more information, please call area code 305-200-9104.
Okay, thanks, Alan. And also, I want to tell you, our next show is in February. Whoever can see this, let me know, raise your hand. It's the little heart sign. We're going to have a heart-loving show near Valentine's Day. Not sure of the date yet. That's going to be in February. So we look forward to seeing you again. So on behalf of Allen Preston and Renee Rentmeester and the Cooking Without Looking TV show and Vision World Foundation, we want to thank you. We're going to say bye for now. Stay safe and see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.